Hi, I'm Victoria Schlesinger. I'm the editor of Bay Nature magazine, right here. If you want to pick up a copy, we have some out there today. So how many people here are aware of the bell tower, the Campanile, just across the street on UC Berkeley campus? Raise your hand. Okay, a lot of people. Excellent. For those of you who don't know, there is a bell tower across the street that has 61 carillon bells in it that musicians play sometimes 3 times a day. And in fact, every Sunday at 2 o'clock, they play a beautiful set. And so they may be playing right now. And on UC Berkeley campus, you hear those bells wherever you are. And if you live in the surrounding neighborhoods, which I happen to, you hear those bells wherever you are. And in fact, for miles around, you hear those bells. And it is a shared experience that brings together the people of this area, those songs. Despite our differences, we are bonded by those bells. And that is what Bay Nature aspires to be. It aspires to be a magazine that is a bell tower, that is bringing the community together who cares about the natural world in the Bay Area. Come on in. Every piece of writing, piece of art, photography in this magazine is a bell tower song that is trying to bring this community together, to get to know each other, to support each other. And that is what we are doing here today. We are ringing joyously, loudly, the carillon bells today for 4 people whose lives are devoted towards supporting the natural world in the Bay Area. So without further ado, I am going to introduce Valentin Lopez, the chairman of the Amamutsan Tribal Band.
Thank you very much, Victoria. Wes, thank you for today. And I'd like to thank all the people here today for showing up. I want to thank the board, the staff of Bay Nature. You guys do wonderful work, and we really appreciate it. As it was stated, I'm the chairman of the Amamutsan Tribal Band, and our tribe is comprised of the descendants that were taken to Mission San Juan Bautista and Santa Cruz. When I was first elected chair, I attended a conference. And at that conference, there was a gentleman from one of the large tribes, and it was his job to recruit students from their reservation and try to get them placed at Stanford, Berkeley, Harvard, and all the great institutions of the United States. And he did that for 23 years, and then he told me that after 23 years, he looked around his reservation, and it was just a tremendous brain drain. He says, because the people that left never came back. They never contributed to the tribe. And to me, that was just so darn sad to think about. And this was early. I was elected chair in 2003, so this is about 2005. And since that time, I started talking to our youth. I started letting them know that, we want to get the education, but at the same time realize how important it is, your obligation to the tribe, and how important it is you return to the tribe to work with the tribe. And we talked to a lot of youth. And I'm really happy to say that today, the people that go to college from our tribe we have a good number of members who go. Currently, we have 3 of our folk, our youth, in PhD programs. We have one majoring in psychology at the University of Michigan. We have another one at UCLA majoring in Native American Studies. And we have Alexii, environmental science and policy. And that is, that is just tremendous. At the end of the year, in about December of last year, I announced that I'm going to be retiring. I'll still work with the tribe, but not so darn busy as I am now. We have good leadership for the future. A lot of times at these honoring, we recognize past accomplishments. But for us, this is just beginning. This is just beginning. So, Alexii, he does a lot for our tribe now. We call on him daily almost to help us, and he always says yes. I'm really kind of worried that we're asking too much of him, and he may not finish his dissertation. But I make sure to let him know that that's definitely his priority. So I'll let you hear from Alexii now. We're very proud of him. He has a lot of wisdom, and he's learned a lot. Thank you.
That was such a heartwarming introduction. I really appreciate it. Chairman, Victoria, Wes, thank you for everyone at Bay Nature for holding this event, holding this space here on the ancestral homelands of the Chochenyo Ohlone-speaking peoples. And I never knew I'd have a photo done of myself, and it feels like I'm sort of some person, I don't know. I feel like proud of it, and I'm really grateful for all of this work. So, I just have a couple remarks for y'all. Keep it light and move into something. And, I think I'm coming to you today as someone who's really humbled and grateful to be honored as a hero, but I also wouldn't be here without my family. So I want to recognize my family members here today, my brother Nico, my partner Raven, my father Robbie, my mother Linnell, her partner Federico, Chairman Lopez, and also my grandfather Art. Thank you for being here today. And why I talk about family is because I don't disconnect family from the environment. I attribute some of my first experiences connecting with the environment to my grandpa Art, who used to take me fishing when I was young, all along the coastline between Pacifica to Carmel. And this was never something attributed to our identity, even though we are, descendants of people who fished along these coasts for millennia, but just as a way of providing sustenance for the family, to do something that feels good. And, I want to acknowledge also the folks whose efforts to keep the San Francisco and Monterey Bay areas protected from development ventures have allowed Gen Z folk like myself to connect with non-human relatives and go fishing along this coastline. These fights to protect important places in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and so on, they've been so helpful, and they're also ongoing. Many of you are aware of our Protect Eurostock fight to protect a sand and gravel mine from happening on a sacred dance ground for our peoples in South Santa Clara County. This campaign has strong involvement of Amamutsun youth, and I think what's really great about it is it's not only about the interests in endangered species habitat and recreation for the public, but it's also about indigenous spirituality and social justice. And I really think that's where the environmental movement is going, and that's so important. For our Amamutsun youth, we helped organize the Amamutsun Youth Walk in 2020, as well as recent rallies. We helped with art builds and speaking events. And this is great opportunities for younger tribal members to learn about and advocate for themselves and for Mother Earth. And it's so powerful to see young ones doing that work. Also, I want to give a special thanks here to Green Foothills, who have been really involved in this organization and the Protect Eurostock campaign, and for Megan Fluke for nominating me for this award. And I've been supported by many other communities in so many different ways, from university advisors to Amamutsun native stewards who I've learned the folks that are doing the good work on the ground of land stewardship. Those ones, those people you can learn the most valuable lessons from, rather than people like myself reading books all day at UC Berkeley. And then also the wider acknowledgement of California Native peoples as important environmental stewards has only come about recently, due in large part to texts such as Tending the Wild by M. Cat Anderson, or California Indians and Their Environment by Otis Parrish and Dr. Kent Lightfoot, who's here today. But California Native activists and earth stewards have been around for many generations, despite not having wider recognition or support of their efforts from the environmental community. Indigenous leaders advocating for their people's ability to continue subsistence harvesting and ceremonial practices were markedly different from past environmental advocacy efforts pushing for that hands-off preservation model of the natural world. Today, that is changing, hence why I'm standing in front of you all today. Along the lines of what counts as environmental stewardship, I also want to highlight the ongoing work of California Native leaders such as Chairman Lopez to get UC Berkeley to rematriate our ancestors and return them to the ground. Since, as many of you know, UC Berkeley still holds thousands of Native American ancestral remains. It's unfortunate that California Native leaders have to spend so much time advocating for basic human rights, such as protection of sacred sites, or the ability to even bury our ancestors again. And for Native people, this is very much a part of environmental stewardship. But this work also limits our ability to be leaders in initiatives such as Pathways to 30 by 30 here in California. But you cannot separate human rights from environmental stewardship for Native people. And just to conclude, I want to reflect on what I think it means to do away with the harmful tropes of the ecological Indian who is one with nature. I believe that this way of othering indigenous peoples that we've seen in the past with Iron Eyes Cody and things like that in the 70s and the 80s creates a conceptual divide between how Native and non-Native people interact with the world. In other words, if we think of Native peoples as being constrained to one time period, it limits opportunity for tribal members today to have connection to identity and seeing themselves in that, and also limits the opportunities for non-Indigenous peoples to learn lessons from Indigenous cultures and understand them as being applicable to our world today. At the personal level, it's important for all of us to examine deep-seated assumptions and social constructs embedded in colonial, capitalist, and white supremacy logics. As a mixed-race person who is only connected to Amamutsun culture as an adult, I'm still very much working on this as well. I believe this process of reframing how we relate to the world around us to center reciprocal relationships with place can allow for a greater understanding of interdependence with our natural world and foster a greater sense of stewardship. And in conversations with Amamutsun stewards, their ethic of why they keep going out to work every day is because they have those relationships with place. And I think many of us hold that ethic as well. So, for instance, we can progress from simply seeing our wonderful protected areas around the bay as places of recreation to places where we can connect with non-human relatives and create interdependent relations. These places, which may only be seen as having recreational importance, are often of particular cultural significance to local Native peoples. I know that every one of us here is fueled by experiences or interests in protecting our natural world, and I'm honored to be in solidarity with you all. I hope we can all continue doing this important work of decolonizing conservation, and this starts at the personal level. This starts with standing in solidarity with Indigenous peoples, advocating for their basic human rights, and doing the needed internal work to dismantle structures deeply ingrained in our society that continue to harm our environment and our ability to connect with it. Tumsanakanis, thank you all for your time.